Welcome to some new r/MaliciousCompliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. If you would like to support this channel, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you enjoy the content. And now, let's start with the first story. It's called Not in the Budget. I work in higher education, in a professional role that is crucial for students. The department I work for has had an employee turnover rate that has put us in the spotlight, and people are talking. One of the reasons for the turnover is the pay. I have a master's degree and was barely scraping by with a 34k salary. Meanwhile, someone who doesn't have a degree, an office assistant, was making 64k. We've had a few essential people leave the department, and I found myself facing the opportunity to get moved up to a higher position with more responsibilities. I applied and got the job. I am now making a 43k salary, which has helped a lot, but with the economy and cost of living, it feels like I didn't get much of a raise. I've been working the job of 2 people for over a year now, until they can find someone to replace me, but no one wants the bad pay. And through my current responsibilities and the responsibilities of the other position, I found myself burnt out and incredibly stressed. We were set to receive up to a 6% merit raise, and I did not receive one because you were not working in your current position for more than 3 months, they told me. Was I not? I had a partial title change, but I was still doing my old duties. I am still in the department. I have more duties now. The only thing that changed was going from a level 2 to a level 4. I asked for a raise because I was not eligible for that merit and was told that I'm one of the best that they have, but it wasn't in the budget. To add, I am the lowest paid in my level across all level 4s, and pay rises come when they truly feel like it. I emailed my boss and let her know that I was no longer going to be doing the work of 2 people, unless I get compensated for it, have someone fill my position, or get an equitable pay. She scrambled a little and ultimately told me the same thing. You are one of our most valuable team members, but it's not in the budget. Since then, students have been complaining that they are in need of assistance and there's no one to help them. Because my new caseload is 3 times bigger, so I'm booked up 99% of the time. She has since assumed the responsibility, because we are already under a microscope and didn't want to have to answer for the complaints, and has found herself in a bind with a bigger caseload. She has told me that she is giving the load back to me, but I have refused and reminded her of my terms. Besides, her compensation is very well, so it's safe to say that the extra load is at least ensuring that she earns her 75k pay. She sent out an email to the entire department and asked if anyone could accept the load. I knew that no one would respond, so I left it as it is. She has been kissing my behind and caved in to my many time of requests. I told her I'd think about taking the caseload back, but I already know in my heart that I'm not doing it. The next story is called Every Penny. A lifetime ago, I spent my junior year of college abroad in Germany. Dorms there are very different compared to American ones. Some are apartment style, and you can have roommates who are different gender than you. There's even often a bar located somewhere within your dorm facility that would be operated by students, perhaps once a week, and thus I attended Bar Abend with enthusiasm. The alcohol always increased my fluency, and drinks were so much less expensive than at the regular bar. What can I say? I like to embrace the local culture. My year in Germany was the best of my life. It was an amazing adventure, and I'm very thankful for my time there. The only negative experience I had that year, the snake in the garden so to speak, involved one of my roommates. Throughout the year, she made sure I knew how unwelcome I was. Things did not get better with her being rude to me throughout the year. During my last month, she told me several times that I owed money for the phone and I needed to pay it before I left. Each time I assured her I would pay, just as I had paid on time all year. As I was in my final few days of picking up my life in Germany, I understandably had a lot of loose ends to tie up. I had to make the final decisions about what to do with everything I'd accumulated in my room. In Germany, at least at the time, it still is. Cash was still very commonly used. Only much of your cash is actually coins. So it gets heavy carrying around a massive amount of coins. I just put my 1 and 2 penny pieces into a jar since that happened to lighten my load. Fast forward to my last day in Germany. I'm going through my wallet and looking at the most recent reminder note my roommate had given about the phone money owed. Then I spy my large jar of German of 1 and 2 cent pieces. I imagine you can see where this is going. Zwei Fliegen mit einer Klappe schlagen. I impressively had enough coins to cover the full amount needed, and also literally covered the countertops and kitchen table with the money. It's honestly the most thought out bad thing I think I've ever done. I normally retreat from any conflict, and luckily met a ton of great people with whom I shared my time that year, and was rarely in the apartment except to sleep. I was alone in the apartment, making my very last cleanup there, and wanted her to know I had provided the amount in full. I wrote out a note saying, "As promised, here's my portion of the phone bill. I trust you will find every penny." The last story is called No Goodwill for You. This is from a job I had a few years back. It had one of the worst bosses I've ever worked for. This one day, in particular, I arrived at work at the same time as my team leader's boss. I walk across the car park and through the doors to our office, merely seconds after him. He doesn't say anything to me from across the car park, even though he saw me. He doesn't even acknowledge me at all. The time was 7:03 and I was supposed to start at 7, just like him. Later that day, my team leader gets an email from this guy telling him to give me a bollocking for being late. My team leader, who also happens to be a good buddy of mine outside of work, didn't give me a bollocking, but instead replied and told his boss that I regularly work an hour or so later after work and don't claim any overtime for it. At the time, I was young and didn't have any commitments waiting for me back home, and I was the type of guy who would want to finish a job before leaving. My team leader's boss told him that he didn't care, that my working day started at 7, and he expected me at my desk at that time every day. He said he was sick of my relaxed attitude toward timekeeping. My buddy showed me the email back and forth between them, which he wasn't supposed to do, and just shrugged and said something like, "At least now you know. I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, you do more than your stated hours, but he's clearly gunning for you. Just watch your back." So I decided I take the boss's word to heart, and from that day until I left, for a much better job, I arrived at work at 6:50 each morning. I got myself a morning brew and sat at my desk not doing anything until 7, when I would start work. Even when I got to the office early, I'd sit in the car park until it was time. And I left exactly bang on my finishing time of 15:30, every single day. The boss didn't notice, of course, until a few months later a big job dropped just before home time, as they often did, and they needed someone to stay on. There was the usual washing around and hushed discussions from the management about it, and then the boss came over and asked me if I would mind staying on to do the job. I was usually the guy for the job in these circumstances. Most everybody else had young families they needed to be home for. Now I could have stayed on and earned myself some sweet overtime. I had nowhere I needed to be or anything I particularly wanted to do, but at the time he was asking me, it was only a few minutes to home time. I told the boss that I wouldn't be staying on to do the job. He asked why, and I pointed to the clock and said, "Because it's home time." With that, I shut down my computer, put my coat on and went to leave. He asked me if I had something to go to or if I had plans for the evening or something, and I just replied blankly, "Nope," and then politely said goodbye over my shoulder as I left. He was absolutely fuming, of course, but he had no power to compel me to stay, and he knew it. I found out in the days that followed that he blew his top. He had asked my team leader to gather my timekeeping logs over the past couple of months since he had ordered him to bollock me for being 3 minutes late. He wanted to horn me over the coals for something. When he realized I was keeping precisely the hours I was contracted to support, he pulled me into his office and asked me why I wasn't being as committed to my role as I used to be. I just smiled and very politely explained that staying late after home time for no pay is something that is done out of goodwill, and that he had eroded all of the goodwill when he had my team leader give me a bollocking for being 3 minutes late, on a day when I got to work the exact same time as him. And I explained that from that point onwards my goodwill was gone and I was only going to do what my employment contract asked of me and nothing more. He was so red in the face. I could tell he just wanted to lose it at me, but he had no legs to stand on. My timekeeping had been impeccable and the work I was doing while at work was to a good standard. He had nothing. All he could say was that he was very disappointed that I felt that way. I just shrugged and asked if there was anything else. There wasn't, so I got up and left his office. I kept my nose clean for a little over a year after that incident, but he was always trying to get me for some reason or another. In the end, I found a very nice job elsewhere, and I heard that after I left, just about the entire department followed suit. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories in today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and want to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.